Previously, in the anime, Saito was summoned to another world from Japan, but he didn't gain any sort of powers, but he still becomes quite useful with his handyman skills. There he joined a unique party with a pretty large level gap, but in their party, Morlock was the most powerful yet the most useless member sometimes. Because his memories are rusted that he sometimes even forgets that he's a human and joins the enemy team, but they still stick together and finds treasures in the dungeon. But one day, they got their hands on a vacuum cleaner and that led them to a new hidden floor of the dungeon. But in that new floor they were ambushed by a ninja and his party, and in that tough spot a dwarf helped them, his name Jabungle, and he claims to be an apprentice of Morlock, but again, Geezer had his memories broken so he can't remember if he ever had a student. Well, no surprise there, even Jabungle tells them that old Geezer was like this even when he met him. It was about 20 years ago, in the East, Jabungle met Morlock and studied magic under him. But after that Morlock went on his own way. There Rielza confirms with Morlock if he could remember anything, but his memories are rusty like his age, so no luck there. So Jabungle tries to bring back Geezer's memories by telling him about his great powers and status, but a kunai hits the dwarf from the shadow. And the ninja once again showed up with a nice backup this time. So back in time, Kisaragi found the home of the girl he loves, but he saw an old lady was lying on the floor and was near death. But he recognized that lady was the girl he fell for, but just in a few days she became like this. So Prim appears and tells Kisaragi that Rahedla once got possessed by a demon who casted a powerful anti-aging spell on her, but later the demon was killed by a mage. But the spell remained intact, and the only way to break free from that anti-aging curse was to fall in love with someone, and as Kisaragi kissed her, she fell for him, and now all the 400 years of age is now catching up to Rahedla, so it's just a matter of time before she die. Kisaragi wanted to save her anyway. So Prim tells him that there's a time mage in the labyrinth, so Kisaragi went after that mage and ran into Saito and his party. There the demons were holding off Morlock. And he can't remember his spell, so Saito reminds the incantation and Morlock blasts the demon out, but it had no effect on that demon and he squashed the head of Saito. But it turns out a substitute magic which Givra casted. Then their Lil Alal also showed up to lend them a helping hand, but Bleth was about to incinerate them with his fire. But the hero and his part also came there to support Saito and his team, so now Kisaragi was outnumbered, so he pulls back with his friends for now. So Ninya tells Lafan that letting them go would be dangerous for afterwards, so Lafan agrees to that and casted a high-level spell at them, but Kisaragi took it upon himself to save his friends. Saito tries to tell them to stop before someone might really kicks the bucket, but they thought Saito and his party were trying to stop them from reaching that time mage. So Prim started her incantation to gather her power on her wings to cast 8th level spell to summon a demon. Prim also wanted to save Ravella, because when all the humans always tried to capture her, she saved her life from them, but Kisaragi still couldn't bring himself to cut off her wings, so Prim used her magic to control those kunai to cut off her wings herself, and now that summons a massive demon pillar. That demon pillar was berserking and everyone was barely holding their own against its attack, so Saito reminds Morlock that he has a spell that can control space and time. So they can use that to send that pillar back to the underworld. Saito discovered that spell while memorizing the incantation for Morlock. And Saito knew that this incantation was the spell that Morlock used to summon him to this world, but it brought back memories of Morlock having a nice little family and a daughter. But at the time he was obsessed with making a name for himself as the greatest mage of all time, and when his daughter fell ill, his wife told him to stay by their daughter's side. But that same day was his trial to become the greatest mage, so Morlock left saying that nothing will happen to their daughter because it's just a fever. But when he returned home with the title of the greatest mage, it was already too late. His daughter died out of illness, and yet even in her last breath she was calling out to her father. So Morlock's wife left him after that day and went on her own way, but Morlock wanted to bring back his daughter from death, so he went into the labyrinth after hearing about the same time mage. But when he found that mage, he challenged Morlock to a fight, and Morlock lost, but the mage enjoyed their fight, so he casted the spell on Morlock that would make him forget everything. And after that, Morlock never remembered anything except for some spell and his name, so Saito wanted him to use that spell, but Morlock still can't remember the incantation. So Saito tells him the full incantation again, and Morlock successfully casted the spell and stopped the time itself, but it had a time limit. So Morlock then casted another spell to raise his magical power and attacks the demon, But after hitting it, Morlock saw Kisaraji's memories that he wants to save his girl. So Morlock had a second thought of ending his life or not to save his family, but in the end the pillar crumbles away in dust. Morlock lost his arm in the process. But he tells Lufan to heal Prim first. They don't understand why they should help their own killers, so Morlock tells them what he saw in their memories. And just as he was about to unleash his full power, he pulled it back to only destroy the demon pillar and saved Prim. So Lufan and others goes along with Morlock's wish, and Lufan heals Prim's, but their Kisaraji tells others to let his demon friends go to their own world. Then Jabungal asks Kisaraji about the time mage they were finding, and Kisaraji tells them his name was Chrome. Well, Chrome was Morlock's other name he goes by in the past. So Kisaraji finally had a glimpse of hope to save Ravella, but then a magical sword appears and the Knight of the Kingdom appears with the magic minister, but Ableth saves him. And took on all those sword on himself, but the knight wasn't a human himself and he's actually the demon, but he turns out to Tailfon's uncle, the former demon king. So Tailfon asked him about his ambition that he left his home for to conquer the human world, but the demon king told Tailfon that he was defeated by the king, so he gave up on that dream. Then Tailfon filled them in on Ravhella's situation, and Morlock tells them he can't turn back time for Ravhella or anyone, he only has a way to stop time for a certain time limit. But he tells them about the time mage who defeated him once, but he already left this world to find another one to live in, so the mage they were looking for is long gone. But their minister sympathizes with Kisaraji and tells them that they have a way to save Ravella and the only one who can cast that spell is king, but in exchange, that spell would take away the life of the person Ravella is intimately connected with, so Kisaraji offers his life without a hitch. But Kisaraji was an assassin and killed many people, so he must be judged by the law, so everyone tells them they never heard about assassin and avert their eyes from Kisaraji's sins. So the minister and the demon king took away Kisaraji, after which the king helped him out, and came to the home of Ravella. That sword takes the life force of someone to transfer it to their partner, and Kisaraji had no hesitation and was ready to give up his life for Ravella. But the king only took his arm and a leg to take half life of Kisaraji and half life force from Prim's wings, and finally they saved Ravella, but she had lost almost all of her memories and powers. So Kisaraji decided to walk away because she can't remember anything, but then he saw some goons trying to force Ravella, so he steps in and saves her. Even with handicap he's still the best assassin, so as a thanks for the assist, she invites them in for a meal, and turns out the demon friends were the one who helped them out, but after all of this commotion, Saito asked Morlock about the spell that summoned him to this world. But Morlock tells them that the only thing he remembers is that he was trying to bring back someone very dear to him, and ended up summoning Saito to this world. So Lufan suggests that Geezer could once again cast that spell to send Saito back to his world, but just the thought of it makes Rielza very upset that she runs away in tears. So Saito followed her all the way and told her that he wanted to stay in the world where he was most needed, so he asked Rielza if she needed him. Rielza was about to confess, but the demon worm attacked them, yet that didn't stop Rielza and confessed that she needed him the most, so that decided where Saito would stay. And their Morlock and Lufan also showed up there. Then Rielza asks Morlock if he can send Saito back, but he can't remember anything, which is natural. But another demon worm was having his dinner on Morlock, so after that day, the good old days returned with the exploration of the dungeon, but after 3 days of exploration when Lufan, Saito and Rielza got back to Inn, the innkeeper tells them that the geezer finally kicked the bucket. But how did the geezer died? Even with the bite from that poisoning worm, he was recovering just fine, yet old man didn't survive, so how did he died? Find out in the next part. Till then, take care.